Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Adventure Belt. My name is Kelly. Today we're going to find out if the Motivx oil change system for the 3rd gen Tacoma is really worth the hype. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Now, I fully understand that oil changes are not cool or sexy. It's a necessity that needs to get done, and when I do an oil change, I want it to be done fast and efficient just to get it out of the way because I've got way better things to do with my time. Now remember, the oil is the blood of the heart of your engine, so take care of it at all costs. What I have here in the Motivx bundle is going to be this drain tool, which directly compares to the little crappy plastic one you get with your cartridge. You have an oil filter wrench, which compares directly with a standard stamped steel oil wrench. Now this is milled and it's really nice. There is no chance of you stripping anything with this guy. And then you have a funnel, which is way nicer than this standard funnel because you're not going to get a mess. The real question is this $60 Motivx finely crafted, machined parts that are made specifically for this oil change, how do they compare to this $15 ragtag bunch of tools that will get the job done? The tools we're going to need are going to be a 3/8 inch socket, a 3/8 inch extension, and this actually goes right into the Motivx filter wrench. We're going to need a 14mm socket to remove your oil plug, a 12mm socket to remove that skid plate, an oil pan, and don't forget the most important thing, save your garage floor, a drip pan. Step number 1 is going to be removing the skid plate on my application. I know some people don't have skid plates, or you might have a window in your skid plate. I have found that even with the window, it's just easier to remove it, but if you don't have one, skip this step. Step number 2 is going to be throwing down my drip pan and then emptying the oil sump into a drain pan. Using a 14mm socket, we're going to drain the oil from the sump. That was a mess. Some paper towels and Simple Green should get this cleaned up in no time at all. The oil is done draining and done making a huge mess of my garage. I cleaned up all that oil spray that kind of went everywhere. Now we're going to replace the plug back into the sump. All right, next step. So the next step is going to be removing the cap to the oil cartridge itself. Using a 3/8 inch extension, we're going to remove that cap. And you can see there's a little bit of oil in here, but not much. Maybe a couple ounces dribbled out. We're at the point now where we're going to get messy, or we're not. It's one or the other. I'm gonna use the factory one first because I know it tends to always spill out over the edge. It never makes a really good seal. So we're gonna try this one first, see what kind of mess it makes. And then I'm only gonna let a little bit spill out. And then I'm gonna put on the Motivx Tools drain plug and we'll see which one is easier and cleaner. We're doing the Messy Wix oil filters, kind of stock one first. Yeah, that was not even working. You have to end up, so it's pressure released. You have to push up with the tip here that makes it flow. And you need a lot of pressure to do it, but in turn, you end up twisting it and never getting a flush mount. So it ends up just pouring out all over the side. It's just a disaster. I ended up cutting the hose in half. I don't really need all of the length that it gave us. So, and when you start this, you want to make sure that this knurled portion here is all the way out. You don't want it all the way pressed in, otherwise it's just gonna start dumping oil. So now we're just going to thread it in. Make sure it's nice and tight. Make sure the hose is down, and then just tighten up on the knurling part. And you can see it's already starting to flow out. So it is leaking out, just a pinch on the side, but I think if I had used a wrench to tighten it up all the way against the gasket, it would have been fine, but. The oil's done draining, now we're gonna remove the drain plug. Now it's time to remove the cover to the filter. The cheapy stamped steel one that's in everyone's toolbox, it definitely does work. The problems when it doesn't is when this is stuck on, this is just gonna fall apart. What I don't know is how is this Motivx one gonna work? Even just putting it on, it just fits on so much nicer. All right, let's try the stamped one. Well, that first try was not good. All right, so it's already skipping off. I don't like it. I'm gonna try the Motivx Tools one. There's not much oil in this at all. I'm gonna remove the old filter, clean up the cap, change out the O-rings, and put the cap back on. Time to reapply the filter. I'm gonna hand tighten it on there, and then I'm gonna use the filter wrench to torque it on nice and tight. The very last step and the very last test, adding the oil. Now what's gonna be better, the traditional funnel or the Motivx funnel? And I think I know which one's gonna win. Outside of checking my fluid levels, checking for leaks, and reinstalling the skid plate, my oil change is done. Now, before I get into my final thoughts about the Motivx oil change system, be sure to like, be sure to subscribe. It really does help Adventure Built grow. If you want to follow along on more of the day-to-day and see some great pictures of our rigs, follow us on Instagram. It's adventurebuilt_. All right, and for my final thoughts on the Motivx systems. For the filter wrench, the Motivx wins hands down. This kept skipping off, trying to loosen it. It wouldn't even grab. I would have had to fight it, and plus it didn't want to come off. It's such a tight fit. Once you get it on there, it doesn't want to come off easily. So the Motivx wins hands down. And now for the drain tool. Again, Motivx wins hands down. This thing was so easy to use, so clean. The only downfall, the only issue I have with this is this tube is hard to clean, but that's gonna be with any tube. I'm not overly concerned about it. I just have this thing with, I like having all my tools super clean, so I'm gonna have to figure out a way to get the residue out of this hose. And the final component, the funnels. And again, the Motivx wins hands down. It was easier to use, it was a lot cleaner, and the cleanup was awesome because it breaks down into 2 parts, which makes the cleanup just fast and efficient. And for me, the biggest thing was with the funnel, the standard funnel, having a 5-gallon thing of oil, you're having to hold this up and dump it, and it just becomes cumbersome. There's a better way to do it, and Motivx tools is that way. All right guys, I hope you liked this side-by-side comparison. I will have all of the tools I use to do this oil change, including the Motivx tools bundle pack here for the Toyota, in the description below, so go check that out. Otherwise, be sure to like, be sure to subscribe. See you guys next time.